The sky was obscured by thick smoke. The earth had turned into a wasteland. The sound of massive gears turning was deafening. A steel city was rampaging through the wilderness. This magnificent moving city held the power to annihilate everything, and the girl before us would become the key figure in preventing disaster. Could she rewrite the new order? After a cataclysmic war, the quantum war had pushed human civilization to the brink of destruction. Earth's resources were nearly exhausted. The continents were shattered. The entire world had turned into a wasteland. Fortunately, after years of recuperation, the remaining humans regrouped to form a new civilization. In the future steampunk era, people built cities on the ruins. There were moving castles atop massive wheels, and mysterious nations nestled by mountains and rivers. In this era of survival of the fittest, only by getting stronger could one survive. They fought for limited resources, with large cities continually swallowing smaller ones, to acquire the energy needed to sustain their cities, and to continuously expand their influence. Now, the largest moving city in the world is called London City. It is known as the Predator City. Today, their target is a small mining town. Though this town may seem small, it holds a large amount of coal and metal resources. It even has 75 tons of salt, enough to sustain all of London City for a week. On a distant mountain, Hella spotted the approaching city. She quickly drew her self-defense weapon, then hurried back to the town. At this moment, the town's loudspeaker began to sound a warning. The residents became panicked and disoriented. They then began to scatter and flee for their lives. The city automatically closed in to recover. They needed to find a place to settle before the Predator City arrived. However, an unexpected incident occurred. The town's engine malfunctioned unexpectedly. The mayor quickly activated the auxiliary equipment, but it was too late. The Predator City was already close at hand. The devouring gate was unfolding. Fortunately, at this moment, the auxiliary device started successfully. The mayor gripped the helm tightly. The town narrowly passed by the Predator City, without incident. However, the city behind them relentlessly pursued. Meanwhile, the residents of London City came out in droves. Gazing at the mining town, a cheer erupted from the crowd. They had immense trust in the powerful London City. They wanted to see the small town before them crushed and devoured. The strength of both sides was vastly different. Even if the town pushed itself to the limit, it could hardly escape its fate of being caught. Watching the Predator City draw closer, the mayor immediately ordered the clearing of all reserve resources. As the weight was reduced, the speed of the town's advance increased. The mayor immediately pressed the gas pedal to the maximum, but he did not expect that ahead was a cliff. The town came to an emergency stop. At this moment, London City's commander Pat ordered an attack. The grappling hook accurately snagged the town, dragging it into the city. The entire town was ruthlessly crushed to pieces, becoming fuel to keep London City's engine running. The town's residents were reduced to slaves. Here, the Supreme Commander Valen was the hero of everyone. Posters and slogans of him were plastered everywhere in the city. The residents were largely enthusiastic about war, enjoying the thrill of devouring other cities. However, the man before us was different from the rest. His name was Tom. He was a staff member at the London City Museum. Tom was a small figure in the city. He had no family and no status. Naturally, he had no prospects. But Tom was also a very special kind of person, because he hated war and despised killing. His greatest hobby was collecting various technological products from the old era to understand the brilliant civilization of that time. One day, the curator assigned him a task to host the esteemed guest before him. The girl's name was Kate. She was researching the technology and history of ancient times, especially the cataclysmic quantum war. However, there was very little written documentation preserved. Even in the museum, there were only a few artifacts from the battlefield. Upon learning that Kate was very interested in this history, Tom invited her to visit his workshop. It was filled with various products from the old era. There was even a map of the 21st century. Though it was already in pieces, it still faintly revealed the beauty of that time. Then, Tom invited Kate to watch a video. It was footage of the war from 1,000 years ago. Quantum energy weapons could destroy a city. Kate was deeply shocked. She couldn't understand why the ancients chose to initiate this war, leading to the fall of a technologically advanced civilization. Tom stated that he was not aware of the reasons, but he had noticed something strange. Due to his work, he would handle some ancient technological weapons. These weapons were extremely powerful. If mishandled, they could trigger a catastrophic crisis. Therefore, Tom usually chose to report them. However, recently, These weapons had been disappearing. Tom reported this to his superiors, but he received no response. This made him feel very uneasy, so Tom secretly hid the weapons that could still be used. He planned to throw them all away when London City passed through the marshlands to prevent a new round of war from happening. However, they did not know that someone outside was watching them. Looking at a whole wall of technological weapons, the man immediately showed a satisfied smile, with a calculating look in his eyes. It was clear he had no good intentions. When Kate returned to the museum hall, the man suddenly appeared and pretended to run into her. He took the initiative to greet Kate. The man introduced himself as Porter. Then he mocked Tom and informed him that he had been demoted. Tom was furious upon hearing this, but he felt powerless. Tom could only grab his bag and prepare to leave for the day. But unexpectedly, Kate actually chased after him. She offered to take him to the demolition site for a visit. Although Tom was confused, he quickened his pace to follow her, because there were no more technological products to be found in London City, but perhaps some could still be preserved in the town that was about to be swallowed. If luck was on his side, he might rescue some old artifacts of archaeological value before they were destroyed. Tom followed Kate to the site. He was surprised to find that he didn't have to buy a ticket and didn't even need to stand in line. Even so, the staff still welcomed him with smiles. Someone even greeted him warmly. This was the first time Tom felt respected. What surprised him even more was that he actually met Commander Valen at the demolition site. He clearly had extensive knowledge of old technology. He recognized the archaeological value of a toaster. Tom instantly felt a sense of admiration for him, but this was met with teasing from Kate. It turned out that Kate was actually Valen's daughter. At this moment, a masked girl in the crowd was staring at the father-daughter duo embracing closely. The hatred in her eyes was almost palpable. The girl was Hella, who had appeared in the mining town. She wasn't a resident of the town, but she willingly allowed herself to be captured by London City. It was clear she had come prepared. So, what exactly does she want to do? On the other side, the demolition worker found a fusion inverter battery. When Valen saw it, he immediately treated it like a treasure and stored it away. This type of battery was extremely rare, but it had immense destructive power. At this moment, the residents who had been swallowed and the natives clashed. Both sides started fighting directly. Valen hurried over to stop them and instructed the guards to separate them. Then he gave a speech claiming that everyone in London City was equal, that everyone could live a good life. But this was just a lie to deceive the newcomers. In fact, the social hierarchy within the city was clearly defined. Resources were held by the nobles and politicians, while ordinary people could only work hard to avoid starving. Valen's words received thunderous applause. No one noticed that Hella was approaching him with a sharp knife.
This is for my mother.
Upon hearing this, Valen's face showed an expression of disbelief. He immediately pushed Hella away forcefully. However, Hella was unwilling to give up. She charged forward again with the knife. Fortunately, at this moment, Tom dashed out from the crowd and knocked the knife out of Hella's hand. But when he saw her face, he was instantly frozen in shock. Hella's beautiful face bore a terrifying scar. Taking advantage of Tom's daze, Hella quickly took him down. Then she turned and fled in a panic. Tom hurriedly chased after her. They began a life and death chase. In the town being demolished, Hella ran desperately forward. Just as she was about to shake Tom off, Valen suddenly appeared in the elevator ahead, so Hella sought another way out. But unexpectedly, she ran into a dead end. Below was a massive waste disposal chute. Watching the dazzling flames behind her, Hella prepared to jump down. However, at this moment, Tom had caught up. He grabbed Hella, who was about to fall, but unexpectedly, she didn't appreciate it. Instead, she told him that those who opposed Valen wouldn't have a good ending. But Tom didn't understand what she meant. So Hella told him to ask Valen a question. Why did he murder her mother all those years ago? Then, she forcefully broke free from Tom's grip and fell down. At the same time, Valen also arrived at the scene. Seeing that Hella had already fallen, he immediately breathed a sigh of relief. He then asked Tom if she had said anything strange. So Tom couldn't help but ask the question Hella had posed, but Valen dismissed it as nonsense. However, in the next moment, he kicked the railing and pushed Tom down. When Kate and her group arrived, Valen immediately put on a sorrowful expression. He claimed that he had just arrived here, and saw Tom struggling with the girl. He said he was about to intervene, but unexpectedly, the railing suddenly broke, and both fell tragically down. Kate felt very sad upon hearing this, because Tom was a boy she greatly admired. Looking at the abyss-like disposal chute, she instinctively thought that Tom was in grave danger. However, just as she looked up, she noticed someone hiding on the opposite platform. From the looks of it, it seemed to be Tom's friend Billy. The other party's panicked expression was very strange. Kate immediately sensed that something was wrong. After returning home, Kate asked Valen who the girl was that tried to assassinate him, and what was the story behind the mother he mentioned. However, Valen didn't respond. He claimed that he didn't know the girl at all. Valen forcibly placed the blame on the Anti-Gravity Alliance. He believed that Hela was sent by the Alliance. Her purpose was to seize resources from them. However, Kate didn't believe this, because the people of the Anti-Gravity Alliance valued peace, although they were affiliated with the mysterious mountain nation, and were in opposition to the gravity cities led by the City of London. They had never done anything to disrupt the peace. Moreover, she had always hoped that gravity cities could coexist peacefully with fixed cities, but in Valen's view, this was absolutely impossible. The mountain nation was jointly established by surviving countries in Asia. They built magnificent cities, nestled among mountains and rivers, along with high protective walls. These walls were lined with powerful heavy weaponry. However, in Valen's eyes, this became a view of the mountain nation, hoarding resources behind their tall walls. Watching the mobile cities exhaust themselves, she looked at her stubborn father. Kate did not press further. She made an excuse to leave first. Meanwhile, Tom and Hela were not dead. Instead, they ended up outside London City via the disposal pipes. After evading the guard's search, Hela approached the unconscious Tom. She took all his money and his dagger, but unexpectedly, Tom woke up at this moment. Hela quickly drew her dagger to threaten him. When she realized Tom had no ability to resist, she turned and left without hesitation. But Tom had never left London City. He had no idea how to survive outside. Tom could only follow Hela. He pleaded with her to help him find a new city. However, Hela didn't want to pay him any attention. She had meticulously planned for 6 months, finally managing to infiltrate London City, and found the opportunity to kill Valen, only to have it ruined unexpectedly. Hela walked ahead. She didn't expect that Tom would follow her as well, talking as he followed. Hela could only let him tag along. After they found a suitable town to live in, they would part ways. As night fell, they finally found a cave. Tom, who had zero wilderness survival skills, immediately prepared to start a fire for warmth. But he was stopped by Hela. The firelight would attract the Southern Army lurking nearby. They were hunters who operated specifically at night. If discovered, they would undoubtedly die. Thus, they decided to rest and regain their strength in the cave. They would set off again at dawn. Hela, accustomed to wandering, and quickly fell asleep. However, the scenes in her dreams were not pleasant. As a child, she was covered in blood running through the dense forest. The dream was too vivid. Hela was quickly awakened. At this moment, she suddenly heard Tom shouting and yelling outside the cave. Hela quickly got up to check. She spotted the Southern Army not far away. Meanwhile, the naive Tom thought it was a trading town. Hela hurriedly grabbed him and prepared to flee, but it was too late. The Southern Army was already in front of them. They shot out grappling hooks, ready to capture them. The two could only hurriedly evade. Hela climbed up a broken wall, but Tom tried several times and couldn't make it up. Hela could only reach out her hand to pull him up. At this moment, a grappling hook from the Southern Army shot towards them again. It grazed Hela's thigh. She pulled Tom up despite the pain. Then she urged him to run quickly. However, Tom hesitated. He looked at the lights on the Southern Army's vehicle and showed a reluctant expression. When he turned back again, Hela was nowhere to be seen. Tom was instantly at a loss. At this moment, the Southern Army's vehicle had arrived in front of him. He was about to be crushed into a pulp. Suddenly, a large hole appeared in the ground. Tom fell down into it instantly. An old man was looking at him in surprise. Tom looked around. He breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Hela also here. It turned out that they had been rescued by a couple of scavengers. Meanwhile, the resources of London City were increasingly depleting. Commander Pat was anxiously pacing back and forth. He threatened Valen to find a solution to the problem. Otherwise, he would take back everything Valen owned. In response to Pat's reprimand, Valen gradually grew angry. He had anticipated this day long ago. London City's resources would eventually run out. He had to find a way to keep London City functioning, or to establish an entirely new city. Then, Valen arrived at his secret base. It turned out that he was secretly developing quantum weapons. In order to secure more resources for London City, he decided to launch a war of aggression against the mountain nation. But in order to successfully win, he must be armed with powerful weapons of destruction. However, the development of quantum weapons wasn't going smoothly. So, Valen secretly collected technological artifacts from the old era to provide them to scientist Sarah for research. And the ancient weapons that had disappeared from the museum were also part of Valen's plan to steal. Just as he was about to leave, Sarah suddenly asked about Hela, and she informed Valen that if Hela was still alive, she would have an immeasurable impact on their plans. Then, she pointed Valen towards a way forward. A criminal had been captured at Shakemore prison. His name was Rick. He was a hunter. His target was Hela. Since their goals aligned, Valen might as well seek cooperation. That night, Valen set off for Shakemore prison. He finally met the imprisoned Rick in an iron box. He was a mechanical zombie, and was filled with resentment. After confirming that his target was Hela, Valen blew up the entire prison. Rick was freed and saw the light of day again. He roared angrily at the sky. What grudges did he have with Hela? Why did he want to hunt her down so desperately? And could Hela escape this calamity? At this moment, the freed Hela and Tom were warmly welcomed by the scavenger couple. They not only provided them with warm tea and a room, but also promised to take them to the nearest trading town. Tom, with no guard up, was very touched, but Hela felt that something was wrong. She became increasingly alert. Then the two returned to their room to rest. The room was very small, with only a bed and a worn-out food bowl. It looked like a prison cell. However, at this moment, both of them were exhausted, and had no energy to observe carefully. After they saw the hostess off, Tom leaned against the wall to sit down. Then he apologized to Hela for his recklessness, perhaps due to their shared experience of life and death. Hela's attitude softened as well. She took the initiative to share her story. Her mother was an archaeologist, who often traveled the world to discover valuable things, and Valen seemed to be her mother's boyfriend. At that time, he was just the executor of London City. Due to work reasons, the mother and daughter didn't live in London City, but Valen would often come to visit them. He seemed very interested in the ancient technology her mother unearthed. Life back then was happy and beautiful. However, one day, her mother unearthed a mysterious box. Valen was instantly overjoyed upon seeing it. It was something he had always wanted. However, her mother believed the items in the box were very dangerous, and didn't want to give them to Valen. So, to obtain the box, Valen set fire to the home of the mother and daughter, and cruelly killed the mother. The scar on Hela's face was also caused by Valen himself. Before she died, her mother gave Hela a strange necklace. Then, with all her strength, she sent Hela to a safe place. Valen originally wanted to kill Hela as well, but she managed to escape. For all these years, Hela had lived in pain. She wanted to find an opportunity to avenge her mother, but in the end, she failed. This story was too heavy. Tom was momentarily at a loss for words. At this moment, he suddenly noticed that the scavenger couple's vehicle was turning south. He hurriedly got up to check the door, but found that the door was already locked. It turned out that the couple weren't scavengers at all, but human traffickers. They were taken to a slave market. People here took pleasure in auctioning off humans. Soon, Hela was noticed by the owner of a human sausage shop. Just as she was about to be bought, a woman in a red dress wearing sunglasses suddenly appeared. Her name was Anna. She was the leader of the Anti-Gravity Alliance. Anna was also the #1 wanted criminal in London City. The traffickers seemed to recognize Anna, and attempted to capture her for the bounty. One could say that if they lacked the strength, they shouldn't have delusions. In the next moment, Anna confidently drew her gun, and shot the trafficker in the head. Her subordinates rushed in immediately. Anna fought with them fiercely. She quickly took care of all of them. Meanwhile, Hela and Tom seized the chaos to escape. They didn't expect that Rick had actually come here. Seeing the suddenly appearing mechanical zombie, Hela's eyes filled with disbelief. She hurriedly pulled Tom to run away. However, no matter where she fled, Rick could quickly catch up to her. He kept repeating for Hela to keep her promise, as they were about to reach a dead end. At this moment, a missile suddenly struck Rick. Anna appeared again to save them. With Tom's help, Hela managed to climb onto the airship. Just as he was about to board, the airship suddenly flew away. Hela could only throw down a rope. Tom hurriedly grabbed it and began to climb up. However, at this moment, Rick was already closing in. He stepped on the rope with one foot, and then pulled on it hard. The immense tension put the airship on the brink of losing control. At a critical moment, Hela threw a knife to Tom. Tom immediately understood the implication. he decisively cut the rope. Only then did the three manage to escape danger. On the airship, Anna helped Hela treat her wounds, but Hela still didn't trust her. Anna could only tell Hela that she was a good friend of her mother. Over the years, Anna had been searching for Hela, but had never received any news. She had always thought that Hela was dead. After all, no one would expect an 8-year-old girl could survive in the wilderness. It wasn't until today, seeing Rick, that she finally understood how Hela had survived. It turned out that, after Hela escaped back then, she soon fainted in the swamp. It was Rick who appeared just in time to save her and raised her. Although Rick was a mechanical zombie, he had a warmth that belonged to a father. Under his careful care, Hela gradually grew up. However, she was always immersed in the pain of her mother's death. Rick was also very pained by this, so he decided to transform Hela into a being like him. This way, she could forget her tragic childhood, and Hela also wanted to find relief. She accepted Rick's proposal. However, the transformation plan had not yet begun to be implemented. Hela learned of the impending arrival of London City, so she secretly left without telling Rick, planning to find an opportunity to avenge her mother. However, in Rick's programming system, Hela was seen as having betrayed their promise. This caused him to completely lose control. From then on, Rick began to hunt Hela down. After hearing Hela's story, Tom suddenly lost control of his emotions, because he deeply hated mechanical zombies. They were made from human remains retrieved from the battlefield. They were demons that killed without blinking. As long as a command was input, they would immediately execute the task. Tom angrily denounced Rick's crimes, but he was cut off by Hela's anger. Although Rick had committed countless murders, he had raised Hela after all. Moreover, Tom had never lived with Rick at all. He only believed one-sided remarks, and attacked him with despicable words. This made Hela very sad. Seeing Hela's tear-filled eyes, Tom hated his own lack of restraint. Meanwhile, after Valen left London City, Kate became increasingly uneasy, so she sought out Tom's friend Billy, hoping he could tell her everything he saw that day. She learned that Tom had actually been pushed down by his father. Kate felt as if the sky had fallen down. She looked at the posters and slogans posted throughout the city, and she suddenly realized that everything her father had told her was a lie. Then, Billy revealed another secret. He told Kate that Valen was conducting secret research in the church. He had wanted to go in and investigate, but the external guards were strict. At this moment, Kate suddenly spoke up. She said she had a way to help him get into the church, so she took Billy to the London Museum. However, at this time, the ancient technological weapons Tom had hidden had been completely looted by Valen's men. They had arrived too late. Then, with the help of the curator, they entered the church through the museum's tunnel. Kate was astonished to discover that the church was filled with guards, and Valen was standing in front of a massive object. That was the quantum weapon Medusa, which had once destroyed human civilization. What Valen had stolen from Hela's mother was actually the core mainframe of Medusa. Now, all the batteries had been gathered, and the quantum weapon could be activated at any time. Then, Valen ordered a change in London City's course, heading east at high speed. This was crucial for the survival of London City. An attack on the mountain nation was imminent. Meanwhile, Pat had been completely sidelined. No one could stop Valen. Looking at her unfamiliar father, Kate admitted she had never truly seen him for who he was. On the other side, Hela and Tom arrived at the headquarters of the Anti-Gravity Alliance. It was a sky city filled with a sense of technology. At this moment, Anna finally revealed the true purpose of their trip. 6 months ago, Valen suddenly began to acquire fusion inverter batteries on a large scale, yet no one knew what he intended to do. Anna asked Hela if she remembered what Valen had taken from her mother, but Hela was only 8 years old at the time, and only remembered that her mother had unearthed a box, but her memory of what was inside the box was vague. However, Tom pieced together key information from their fragmented words. He widened his eyes in terror, and quickly drew a pattern. Tom asked Hela if the box had this symbol on it. After receiving her affirmative response, Tom was even more convinced of his thoughts. Valen had obtained the core mainframe of Medusa. To stop all of this, they had to find the key to destroy Medusa. After saying this, Tom seemed to lose his soul entirely. He couldn't believe Valen's ambition was so great. Meanwhile, everyone in the Anti-Gravity Alliance was also taken aback. Anna immediately understood Valen's intentions. They had to notify the mountain nation in the east immediately. But just then, a deafening alarm suddenly rang out in the city. In the next moment, Rick burst through the door. Everyone immediately grabbed their weapons to try to fend him off. Human weapons inflicted minimal damage on him. The entire Sky City trembled under Rick's bombardment. Everyone could only hurry to evacuate. But just as Hela and Tom were about to board the airship, Rick had already caught up to them. Tom stepped forward, preparing to face off against Rick, but he was no match for the mechanical zombie. Rick quickly subdued him. Seeing Tom, who was on the brink of death, Hela cried and pleaded with Rick to spare him. She stated she was willing to return with him. Hela's tears touched Rick. At this moment, he finally realized had his protection of Hela couldn't make her completely forget the painful memories. Seeing her desperately protect Tom, the light in Rick's eyes gradually faded. A look of sadness appeared on his face. In the next moment, this body, which had survived for 1,000 years, finally collapsed. The battle had inflicted fatal damage on him. Rick's life had reached its end. Fortunately, Hela had found a new support. Rick could finally let go of his obsession and peacefully welcome the arrival of death. Then, he returned a necklace to Hela. It was the one her mother had left her long ago. Hela had always thought that the necklace had been lost during her escape, but she never expected that Rick had kept it safely. In the final moments of his life, many images appeared before Rick's eyes, mostly memories of his beautiful past with Hela. In addition, there were also the small hands of a child. Perhaps Rick had once been a father, with a happy and beautiful family, but that no longer mattered. In the end, Rick perished along with the Sky City. Under Anna's guidance, Hela and Tom finally arrived at the mysterious mountain nation. This was the last remaining pure land on Earth, and the only permanent city in the world. With its unique geographical advantages, the residents lived in wealth and comfort. Because of this, Valen wanted to breach this place. Upon learning that London City was approaching, the mountain nation quickly sounded the red alarm. Then the commander ordered the artillery to be set up, preparing to take the initiative before Medusa finished charging. However, Tom wanted to stop this action. He believed the residents of London City were innocent. They should not suffer from the ravages of war. But were the people of the mountain nation not innocent? Should they pay for Valen's ambitions? The commander didn't agree to Tom's request. From his standpoint, protecting the citizens of the mountain city was his only responsibility. Meanwhile, London City continued to advance at full speed toward the mountain nation. Valen was conducting a military mobilization within the city. The positive image he had cultivated all along was now playing a significant role. People admired and trusted him. As long as it was a decision made by Valen, everyone supported it unconditionally, accompanied by the passionate shouts of the crowd. A world-ending war was about to begin. The fleet of the mountain city was assembling in an orderly manner. At the same time, Medusa was entering its final charging phase. The belligerent residents of London City flocked to the square to closely observe the power of the quantum weapon. Meanwhile, the citizens of the mountain city silently prayed for the warriors to return safely. They longed for peace more than for war. At this moment, the deity statue worshipped by the residents of the mountain city caught Hyla's attention. It was actually a statue of Medusa. Hela stared silently at the face of the statue. When she saw the third eye on Medusa's forehead, she suddenly realized something. Hela hurriedly took out the necklace her mother had left her. It indeed looked exactly like the eye on the statue. Hela anxiously opened the eye and found that it contained the key to destroy Medusa. She didn't have time to think and hurried to find Tom. When the familiar symbol came into view, Tom recognized what Hela was holding. He realized that perhaps this was their only hope to stop Valen. However, at this moment, the quantum weapon had completed its charging. With the activation of the launch button, with just one shell, the mountain nation's warships were all destroyed. The indestructible city walls were shattered as well. Chaos erupted within the city. Meanwhile, within London City, the people were even more passionate. They cheered and shouted excitedly, believing that victory would surely belong to London City. However, due to the lack of nuclear energy support, Medusa couldn't unleash its full power. It had to shut down and recharge again, waiting for the next deadly attack. The mountain nation thus gained a brief respite. Anna learned that Hela had found the key. She immediately organized a small team to escort Hela and Tom secretly into London City. Only by destroying Medusa could this world-ending war be stopped. Four airships set off toward London City under the cover of night. But just as they were about to arrive, the second charging was completed. The shell once again accurately hit the city wall. The defenses of the mountain nation were utterly destroyed. Anna and the others' airship almost crashed as well. Meanwhile, The patrol warships of London City also detected them. In the next moment, a hail of gunfire came pouring down on them. To ensure that Hela could safely enter London City, Anna quickly manipulated the airship to fly at low altitude. Meanwhile, the other team members rushed forward without hesitation, helping to draw the fire away. But under the intense fire from the enemy, soon, some teammates made the ultimate sacrifice. However, the others didn't give up, continuing the fierce battle. In the final moment, one teammate exerted all their strength to adjust the direction of the airship, heading straight for the enemy's artillery. Thus, under the cover of their teammates, Anna successfully brought Hela into London City. Then, she calmly arranged the combat deployment. Hela would go alone to the church to destroy Medusa, Tom would stay on the airship to provide support, and she would be responsible for fire cover. Meanwhile, Valen was preparing to launch a third attack. As long as the launch was successful, the Mountain Nation's defense system would be completely destroyed. But at this moment, Anna's gun was already aimed at Valen. But unexpectedly, at the moment she pulled the trigger, someone stepped in front of Valen. All 3 bullets missed their target. Anna was also shot in the abdomen by Valen. In desperation, the two had to engage in a melee battle.
Seconds.
As the two clashed fiercely, the thermal system of Medusa also reached its carrying limit. The control room could explode at any moment. The guards were also retreating. Hela took the opportunity to successfully blend into the church. She arrived at the control panel. Hela quickly connected the destruction system to the main console. However, there was only 1 minute left until the quantum weapon was launched. Hela desperately controlled her trembling hands to input the password. She nervously stared at the screen. Fortunately, the password was correct. The destruction system started successfully. On the other side, to buy time for Hela, Anna chose to sacrifice herself to hold Valen back. In the end, Medusa was successfully destroyed. The third shell was unable to be launched as intended. Valen's plan had completely failed. However, he was still unwilling to give up. Ignoring Kate's pleas, he planned to use the entire London City to break through the walls of the Mountain Nation. Valen's madness completely disappointed Kate. She hurried into the cockpit and tried to stop London City. However, all the control panels had been destroyed, the pilots had all been killed, and the selfish Valen was just like years ago. He completely disregarded his daughter's life. Valen was preparing to escape on an airship. Fortunately, at this moment, Tom successfully contacted Kate. Under his guidance, Kate successfully opened the core chamber of London City. Then Tom piloted the airship inside. Meanwhile, Hela also intercepted Valen, who was trying to escape, but just as she was about to shoot him, Valen revealed a secret. It turned out that he was Hela's biological father. These words struck her like a thunderclap in her ear. Hela was momentarily stunned. Valen immediately wrested the gun from her hands. Then the father and daughter began to struggle with each other. On the other side, Tom successfully entered the core chamber of London City. He suppressed his inner fear and pressed the missile launch button. In an instant, the entire London City began to explode from within. Amidst the deafening explosions, Tom piloted the airship successfully out of the core chamber, and he managed to pick up Hela before London City collapsed. Then a missile struck Valen's airship. In the end, Valen was buried under the collapsing London City. All the evil and conspiracies would be submerged in history. At the end of the film, Kate brought the survivors of London City to seek refuge in the Mountain Nation. The commander welcomed them, but Tom and Hela didn't stop their journey. They chose to travel the world on the airship, following the winds to see the world. Overall, the film's visual effects are truly extraordinary. From the massive and complex mechanical structure of the moving city, to the vast and desolate post-apocalyptic wasteland, every frame is soul-stirring, opening a door for the audience to a novel apocalyptic world. For fans of science fiction films, this movie is definitely worth watching. Interested viewers can check out the original film, Mortal Engines. If you enjoy my channel, please click to subscribe.